Alright, so what happened in Nazi Germany and what's happening now? Well, the people lived in fear. They didn't want to go outside their houses. They were scared all the time. I think there was a virus of some kind, and life insurance was being sold all over the place. Hitler put out an order. He thought it'd be better if they'd be institutionalized than to live with their families. He didn't want kindness to spread or caring or counted, and the space between their vertebrae. And if you were too tall or too short, you were tortured or killed. He cut everyone's hair off and abused them severely. There was a video I just watched, and they even said some kids simply died in their beds. They would say that it was too much for the government to handle, too many kids for them to take care of, too much for them to educate, and collateral damage. Oh well. They could have left the kids alone. They could have left the families alone. As a matter of fact, they could have left everyone alone. They didn't have to do any of this. They chose to, for ultimate power and control. So how does that relate to right now? Well, there are a crap load of life insurance policies being bought and sold on a constant, continual, daily basis. Some of those policies have my name on them and my kids' names. It refuses to correct any of the situations, just like Nazi Germany. Back then, they actually had the government paying people to target Jewish people and people who life insurance policies had been taken out on. I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't look good right now, because some of the life insurance policies that I found may or may not stem from municipalities, which could be taken that the government is supporting the hunting of people. After the war, people fled for freedom. They came to the United States for protection, not to be hunted some more. They also wanted a new life, a free life, one that was free of Nazi ideas, Nazi values, and Nazi ways. America already had some Nazi-ish stuff going on, but it wasn't too bad for them at first. But the more that time went on, and the more people that came over, and the more soldiers that followed the Jewish people, as well as people from other parts of the world, to the United States, made it worse and worse and worse. They made binders on people. I am not bound, I am not bound, I am not bound. And they used those binders to keep track of their lives, their kids, and their families. And they wanted to keep track of the lineage and all of that stuff, so they could make sure that they got every last offspring of the person, just because they stood up or because they fled. There is something very wrong with society today. You have the exact same thing going on right now in front of everyone's eyes, and for whatever reason, they don't see it, they refuse to see it, they choose to ignore it, and because they choose to ignore it, the problem gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. This goes back, happened to be concentrated in certain areas. Some of those areas also happen to be surrounded by big bodies of water, which means the people who live near those areas are probably living off of wells. This raises suspicion, especially when you've gone through everything I've gone through and experienced everything I've experienced, including a lupus-like disease or lupus itself, as well as all the symptoms that go along with it. When you've been poisoned your whole life, and taught, I mean, it's both. I was taught and poisoned. You know, not just from experience, but from what you were taught. It's not hard to see or to suspect. It's also not crazy talk, not nuts. It's called reality, and that's where I live. For whatever reason, those who are doing all of this don't. They don't live in reality. And the reason they don't live in reality is because they don't seem to understand that there is not simply 40 million people to contend with. There's 331. And that's just in this country alone. There's other countries out there too. So the reality is the restrictions, they really never should have been put into place. Nobody should be told that they have to wear a mask. There have been people called out on this, and there's already been lawsuits filed. You can't evade those lawsuits. You actually have to pay them, and you have to do the right thing, because that's what helps keep our Constitution in place. People are facing electricity and water and gas turn-offs. Something has to be done to help those people. Some people might be being, something also has to be done to help them. And on top of all that, you have the kids. The kids that you want so desperately to steal for whatever reason it is. I don't think that's such a good idea. The reason I don't think it's such a good idea is because that's actually, I think, what helped to cause the war, which made it worse. They stole everyone's kids, and they started to kill them, and then people found out, and when they found out, they didn't just get mad. They got extremely mad. And then next thing you know, there were a whole lot of dead people. A whole lot of dead people. Now, back then, the United States supposedly stepped in and helped to save all the people and to help them restore their lives, just like in Iraq. The problem is plentiful. How could you be so blind and arrogant and ignorant and egotistical and, I'm sorry, but stupid to do the same thing all over again? The reason I keep calling it the same thing is we had a flu called the swine flu. I was watching that video, and in it, they called Nazis swine. Nazi swine. Not slime, like I like to call them. They called them swine. We had the swine. So we had the swine flu. Now we have the coronavirus. Nazi. He's leading you astray.